Hello and welcome back to my Odoo theme development tutorial, and today we will be discussing about Odoo dynamic snippets. At the end of this tutorial, you will learn how to create a new model, create a new controller, create a new dynamic snippets, and lastly, add JavaScript to fetch data. Let me show you the project that we will build. Previously, we already created two static snippets. So now, we will be creating a dynamic snippets, and we will focus on this section, which is Explore Cities. Since this is a dynamic snippets, this data should be saved in the database so that we can just add, edit, delete these records. So in the backend, we will be creating a new model called cities, and we will create a new menu stored in website module called your home and a submenu cities. From here, we can create a new record, for example, United States and city or state. We can add an image, add a description if you want, and click save. Once you added a list of city, then we can go into the front end and click edit. As you can see, this is the new dynamic snippets. Let's click and drag. Once I save this, you will see all the data that it's in the database. Say for example, I will change the city of Arkansas. Let's make it Alabama. Save. Refresh. As you can see, it is showing Alabama here. I can also delete one city. And let's see if it's deleted. Okay, so it's working. I can also add it in services page. I can add it at the top. Click save. Okay, it's working fine. So now let's see how we can build this project from scratch. First, let's create a new model. Right click to theme your home directory and create a new directory. Let's name it models, and inside models, let's create a new file called init.py, and then let's create the actual model and let's name it YH, shortcut for your home, and then cities.py. And of course, you need to add our models from our main init file. So this code will automatically import all of the code added in the models. And of course, from here, we need to import this Python file. Let's start by importing models and fields. Then let's create a new class, name your home cities, models.model, and then let's name it ych.cities. Description is equal to your home cities, and then now we will define the field names. So first we want a country, next is state, and then description, and lastly the image. To easily define the types of these four fields, we can check what's already existing fields in Odoo. First, let's activate the developer mode. Let's go back to settings and go to companies. Click your company, click edit. As you can see, we already have country and state ID. If you hover, you can see on the right side the field, the object, the type. So we can just copy this. So the type of this field is many-to-one, and it has a domain, and it is pointing to rest.company. Let's first define this. State ID is equal to fields that many-to-one, and it is pointing to rest.country.state, the relation. And then we have a domain which is country ID is equal to question mark country ID. Okay, domain is equal to country ID is equal to question mark and then country ID. And let's add a string city or state. Next, country ID, field name is country ID, there's no domain, and the relation is rest.country. Fields that many-to-one, relation is rest.country, and let's make it country ID, and the string country. Next, the description, can make it text, and then the image. Let's hover this image. So the type is binary. So fields that binary. Before we will restart Odoo, please make sure to edit the configuration and remove dev.xml because I'm only using it if, for example, I am editing page templates or snippets. But here we are adding new models, that's why we need to remove it. Let's click rerun. Let's go back to Odoo and click update theme to see if it's successfully added. Let's duplicate this tab and let's go to our models by pressing Command plus K on your keyboard, and let's search models and search yh.cities. Okay, so it was successfully added, and here are the fields that we have created. We have the state ID, country ID, description, and then the image. Next, we will add a new menu in our website module, and we will add it after visitors. To add a new menu, let's duplicate this tab and let's search menus and let's search visitors. As you can see, there are two menus. One is the main menu and the other one is the sub menu. So let's choose the second and let's click the debug icon and view metadata so that we will know what is the code in adding this menu. Let's go back to PyCharm and right click, find in files, paste, and instead of this directory, let's go to Odoo server or the community edition add-ons. So we are looking for this menu ID. Okay, this is the correct one. Let's copy, and under views folder, we will create a new file and name it yhcities.xml. Let's add the declaration, type Odoo and data, and then paste. Let's change the ID to yh root menu, and then let's name it your home. Since visitors is 80 and we want to make it after visitors, so let's make it 85, and the parent will be the same. Don't forget to add it in the manifest file. It's under views yhcities.xml file. Let's restart, go back to Odoo and update the theme. Let's see if it was added successfully. The name is your home. Okay, it was added successfully. Next, we need to add the submenu. Let's view the metadata, copy. Let's see if it's existing here. Control F, paste. Yeah, it is existing, so we can just copy it. Let's make it YH cities for the ID. Name will be cities. The sequence is 1, and the parent, it should be the one we created, which is YH root menu. And then we need an action. So an action in Odoo just simply telling what will happen if they click this submenu. So let's go back here and let's find this. Let's copy, go back here, and we need to add it at the top, and let's rename it to YH cities action. The model is IR actions app window. Name is cities, and the model is the model we have added here, which is YH cities. We only need tree view and a form view. So just to show you what are Kanban and graph view, if you go into visitors, because we copied the action from visitors, that's why we see this is Kanban, this is list view, and then this is graph view. And the form view is when you click any item. So since we only need tree view and a form view, that's why we deleted the other type of view. We don't need the context, and this help, it will show if there's no data. So let's try no cities yet, and then please add a new city. Let's go back to the browser and update theme. Let's check if it's working fine. Let's refresh. So you can see that your home is added and then cities. But it is showing visitors because we didn't yet add the action that we have created in cities submenu. So we need to add also the module name, which is theme your home, and then the name of our action. Let's go back to the browser. Let's update theme and then refresh. Now it was removed. Let's see why it has been removed. First, let's see if this action that we have created is added successfully. Let's duplicate this tab and let's search actions. Let's choose window actions and let's type cities. So we have successfully added the cities. Now let's go into our model YH.cities. If we click in the access rights, it's empty. That's why it's not showing. To add access rights to our model, let's go in Odoo add-ons folder under website module. Inside security, let's open this in PyCharm. We can copy only these two lines and then let's create a new directory and name it security. And inside security, let's create a new file ir.model.access.csv. Let's paste. So the ID, let's make it access YH cities, and let's make it YH cities, and then the model will be YH cities. The group ID will be empty, which means it is accessible by all, and then perm read is okay, perm write is 1, perm create is 1, perm unlink or delete is 1, means all users can add, edit, delete, and read this record. Don't forget to add it in the manifest file at the top. So under security, and then ir.model.access.csv, and restart the server. Let's update the theme. Okay, we got an error here. I think it's in the model. Let's make it model underscore YH underscore cities. Let's restart and let's update the theme again. Let's go back to website module and reload the page. And click your home and cities. You can see that we don't have any record, but it's showing the correct action. And this is the one we have added in our action. No cities yet. Now let's try to add a new city. Let's click create. Country, let's say United States. We have an error. Country ID is not defined, so let's see our code under country. Okay, so I think this is the issue. Country. Let's restart Odoo. Upgrade the theme. And let's refresh this page. Let's try again. Okay, now it's working. So all the cities are showing in United States. If I'll change it to United Arab Emirates, it's also showing the state within United Arab Emirates. Description, test, and upload your file for our image. Click save. Next, we will define the form view of this model. Because Odoo by default, it will load all the available fields, but it's not properly organized. Like this image, it's not showing the preview of the image. So let's go back here and let's look some form view here. This is a good example. Let's copy and paste it in our model at the top, and let's reset all these fields. Let's remove this, and we will only need one group, and the field name will be country ID. Let's remove this. Actually, let's remove all of this and let's just duplicate. Description, and lastly the image. But don't forget to rename this ID YH cities form view YH.cities.form.view, and the model will be YH cities, and the string will be cities. Okay, let's go back to Odoo and update the theme. Let's go back and let's reload this page. Now it is showing the details here. We don't need this, and also we want this at the top and on the right side. So to do that, let's move it at the top and let's make widget equal to image and a new class which is OE avatar. Let's update the theme again. Let's reload the page. Now our form view is okay because we have the preview of the image and it's properly organized. Next, we need to define also a tree view. So to do that, let's go back and let's find tree view. Let's copy and paste, fix the indentation. Let's copy the same fields and replace all of these fields. And let's remove this, we don't need it. Of course, let's replace this, should be YH cities, tree view, and YH.cities.tree.view, and model will be YH.cities. Let's go back and update our theme. Let's reload the page. Now it's showing what we have defined here: country ID, state ID, and description. Next, let's create our dynamic snippets. First, let's go in our snippets folder and let's add a new file. Let's name it explore cities.xml and let's copy and let's change this to explore cities, and the design or the layout, let's copy in our home page. Let's copy the entire code and fix the indentation. Of course, don't forget it in our snippets so that it will show. Let's just duplicate that and it will be explore cities, and the image I already have in static image snippets, and the name is explore cities.svg, and the keywords, let's make it explore cities, and don't forget to add this into our manifest file. Make sure it's before snippets, and this will be explore cities.xml. Let's restart Odoo and update theme. Next, let's go into the front end and let's reload our page. Click edit. As you can see, there's already explore cities, but right now it's still static. You know what? We can just add dynamic here so that we know that this is dynamic. Let's go back and update our theme. Let's reload. Click edit again. Okay, this is better. In order to make this as dynamic, we need two things. One is a JavaScript file that will be used in fetching the data from our database, and one controller or API endpoints that will give us all the cities inside this model. But before that, we need to remove all these static cities and let's leave one because we will gonna need that later. Let's remove these 3 cities and these 4 cities. So we will only leave one and we need to add an ID YH cities row which will be needed in our JavaScript. So now let's add a new JavaScript file and let's add it under source folder. Let's name it JS and add a new file called explore cities.js. So let's see in Odoo Community Edition on how to add JavaScript code for these dynamic snippets. Let's go under website module, static, source, snippets, and let's check smap. Let's open in PyCharm. Let's copy the code and paste it in explore cities.js. Let's clean up the code. We don't need this. And we need to replace this to YH cities. And then the selector will be the class we added here, which is explore cities. And then let's entirely remove this. And let's just make a sample console lang YH cities start. So means this is start. Once you refresh the page, it will select any class in the page having a class explore cities, and then as long as the page finished loading, it will print this message YH cities.start. And we need to replace this to YH cities. And don't forget to add it in the manifest file. It's under front end and under JS. The file name is explorecities.js. Okay. Let's restart Odoo and update our theme. So now let's remove this and add again explore cities. Okay, we need to fix it. It should be at the center. We need to add justify content center, and here we need to add margin bottom 5. Let's update the theme. Let's reload the page. Click edit. And let's click and drag again. Now it's working fine. And let's save. So to check if it's working, let's inspect it and go in console. You can see that we have a console log YH cities start, which means our JavaScript file is working. And as you can see, there are 2 console log because there are 2 classes with explore cities. Let's try to change the content of this in our JavaScript file. Let's remove this. So first, let's console log our current element, which is this.el. Next is we will select this ID that we have added, YH cities row. Okay, so let's try this first before we will change the content. Let's update the theme. Let's reload the page. Okay, as you can see, it's properly selected, which is this is the current element, this.el, and then inside this element, we are selecting this ID, yhcities.row, which is correct. Now, let's make it cities row is equal to this one, and then after that, cities row dot inner html is equal to, let's create a new div, and let's add any text for now. Let's remove all of this console lag. Let's go back and update our theme. Basically, this code, after the page load, it will replace this entire content with only just div and dash. Okay, let's update the theme. Let's reload the page. As you can see, when the page load, this entire content was replaced with this content. But let's fix this error because we have two explore cities classes, but in this section, cannot find ID with yhcities.row. That's why it's creating an error. So only if cities row, then it will change the inner HTML. Let's update the theme. And reload the page. Okay, so now the error is not showing. Next, we need to create a controller so that will give us the data we need in our model. So let's go in PyCharm, and first we need to create a new folder named controllers, and inside that we need to add a default init file. It should be .py. Let's rename it, and then a new controller, explore cities. So from here we only need to import HTTP, and then we need to create a new class. Let's name it your home cities, whatever you like, and let's add HTTP controller, and then we need to define the route. First, this will be the link, and let's make it cities. Then next we need to add auth. Let's make it public so that it's accessible to all. Next, the type will be JSON. The methods will be post request. Then next, we need to define function. Let's name it all cities. And we need to add http.request.env, the name of our model, which is yh.cities. And I will use search read functionality in Odoo ORM, and the first one will be the domain or the filter. The next will be the field names you want to get. So first I want the country ID. Next is the state ID and the image. Then next we will return these records. Okay. Don't forget to add it in the init file. Okay, let's try to rename this. Explore cities. Okay, that's better. And of course, in the main init file, let's duplicate this and let's make this as controllers. Okay, let's restart and update theme. Let's test if our controller is working fine, and the link will be cities. Since this is a GET request, it's showing an error. Let's try to open it in Postman just to check if post request is working or not. And then in the headers, content type, value is JSON. And in the body, let's make it raw and an empty object. Let's try send. As you can see, I get the records, ID, country ID, state ID, and the image. So our controller is working fine. Now we can use this in our JavaScript. Now that our controller is done, we can go back to our JavaScript. Usually, if we are connecting to an API, we need to use Ajax or Fetch API. But in Odoo, they created a method called RPC. So before we move on, I just want to tell you the advantages of RPC. We can directly connect to our controller by adding this link. Unlike using Ajax or Fetch API, you need to add the base URL. But thanks for RPC, you just need to add whatever the route you define. And also, you can connect to the model you created. And then if you define any function here, you can get whatever the data you want to return. But that will be another topic. For now, we'll be focusing on our controller and how we will get the data we returned here. So in this method, we need to add only two things. First is the route, which is the cities, and an empty parameter. Since this method will return a data, so we need to use that then, and then we get the data. I will use arrow function. So if you want to use arrow function, make sure to add this code so that it will treat us as an ES6 syntax. So let's console log the data we got from this controller. Let's restart. And let's reload the page. As you can see on the console log, we received the data which is existing in our database. We have two. So if you want to create new record, let's save it. And if I will reload again, I should get 3 in the console log. As you can see, we have 3 data. Now we can use that data to change the HTML. We will use a function data that for each we will use arrow function again. So for every country, we will console log country. Let's try if this is working. Let's reload the page. So every record I am getting the data. So now we will use this data to print in our HTML. So first let's define HTML as empty, and here we need to copy the code from our XML file, which is this one. We can just delete it and make it as a single line. Now we will make HTML and then we will use backtick notation, and this code is used to add every country in HTML. Now let's copy this code, and instead of this string, we will add the HTML we defined. Let's try first if this is working. Let's reload the page. As you can see, we have 3 countries here because we have 3 records in our database. Let's update the theme. We need to replace this snippet. So let's delete and let's add again this snippet and save. Okay, so that is working fine. Now let's change the images, the country name, and the city name. Let's go back into our JavaScript file. Since we are using template literals here, I can easily inject the data from this country inside this HTML. So we just need to add $sign and open close bracket. But let's first see the data we are getting in our Postman. So here we are getting country ID and state ID and the image. So let's do first the country ID. Let's make it empty for now, and then this should be the country ID, and then country. And since in country ID it has given us an array, first is the ID and then next is the name. So we need to access the second item. But what if some data doesn't have country? So I can use ternary operator. So if country that country ID, then we need to print country, else print empty. This should not be country, it should be city. Let's try to reload. Oh, we have an error. It is undefined. Let's inspect. It's under Explore Cities at line 24. Okay. Okay, it should be country ID. Let's try again. Okay, we didn't get any issue, and it's showing us the correct country. So we have United States, United Arab Emirates, and Albania. Let's go back to our cities. We have United States, United Arab Emirates, and Albania. Okay, now let's do the state ID. But first, we need to add a state here. And here also. Let's try Philippines. Let's try Isabela. IS, country, Philippines. Save. And we can add also image. And this one, let's add also an image. Now let's go back into our JavaScript and let's copy the same code. And instead of country, make it state ID. Let's reload the page. Now we are getting the correct state. Now let's change the image. Now in order to add the image, since our image is a binary data, as you can see in our Postman. It was encoded as base64, so we need to add the source as data image png base64, comma, and then we can access again our city.image. Let's check. Let's reload the page. Okay, now we have different images for every country. Now let's fix this image. It should have the same with country image. Let's go to our CSS. Oh, it's correct. Okay, let's add this code into our style. Now let's try again. So if you want to add other country here, save. Let's check again. Now it's working fine, but we still have an issue here. For example, if I will click and drag this snippet, the city should show not only when you save it. So let's go back to our website add-ons module, inside views, and then snippets, and let's choose smap and add it in our PyCharm. So the code that we need to do is this data.js is equal to map, and this name will be used in our JavaScript. Let's copy this code. Let's go back to our Explore Cities XML, and then let's add this code. And instead of smap options, let's make it Explore Cities options. Inherit ID will be the same. And then here we need to add Explore Cities option. And the data selector should be Explore Cities. Now that we have added that, we need to add a new JavaScript file. And let's name it Explore Cities options.js. Let's go back to our add-ons module. Under static, source, snippets, and let's check smap, and let's open it in PyCharm, options.js. So we only need this import options. Of course, we should not miss this because if we want to use ES6 syntax, and then let's copy. And at the end, we need to export this option. So instead of map, we need to add Explore Cities options we define in our XML. Basically, we can add the same function like we added here. And let's make a console log. Then we need to add it in our manifest file. Let's restart Odoo. And we need to update our theme because we added a new XML file. Let's reload the page. And then let's Let's inspect and open our console log. Okay, I think we have an issue here. Explore cities. We should rename it. It's double I in the cities. Let's restart Odoo and reload the page again. Okay, it seems we don't have any issue. Now let's move this at the bottom and then let's click edit. So if I will click and drag this, I should see some console lag. Okay, as you can see, it's working fine. Explore cities options. So then we can just easily copy the code we added here and paste it in our options. So let's reload the page. Click edit. And then let's click and drag. So this will not work because in our code, we are selecting YHC this row, and in our front end, if we go into elements and find YHC this row, you will notice that there are three IDs. One is the previously added Explore Cities, one is for the newly created, and one is a copy created by this block editor. But we want to target the current added snippet. So we need to do something changes in our code. So instead of EL, we need to use target, and then we need to use jQuery method, which is fine. And then here, we need to change also the code. Instead of inner HTML, we use jQuery method .html and then the HTML code. Okay, let's reload the page. Then let's edit again. And let's try to click and drag. As you can see, it is showing the same thing what we added here. So now it is synced when you are editing and when you are saving the page. Let's try to add more cities. We can duplicate this. And then let's use Arkansas and edit the image. Let's duplicate again. And let's choose Alaska. And then let's reload. Now we have 6 cities. So we can just easily delete the other snippet. Okay. And if you want to try again, it's working fine. Let's delete and let's click save. So that's the end of this tutorial, guys. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, just leave comment. Thank you and see you on my next tutorial.